of the families. Um, am I done? I think I'm done. All right.
So I had many, I had a lot of different things to do. So the Days for Girls stuff, I did that. Um, but I also did character lessons, and we worked as a group before we left to come up with a plan. And our plan is to have a curriculum written for 6 different years. The first year being respect, and then there's our other topics. And we drew these from 2 programs that the schools use, that I've used in classrooms, Character Strong and Character Counts. And so we worked before we left to come up with what our topics were going to be. We quickly decided we couldn't do all this at once. So I don't know who came up with this idea, but thank you. Because we're only tackling 1 topic a year. So this first year is going to be respect. And there's 3 terms in the year. We group the grades together, so babies, MIDI, and reception all get the same lesson. Grades 1, 2, 3 get the same lesson, 4, 5, 6 get the same lesson. And then I also wrote lessons for 7, 8, 9. And they'll have 1 to 2 lessons every term for every one of those grade levels. And then every year it's going to change to a different topic. So this year's respect, and another 6 years they'll do respect again. But the kids might still be in school, but they're going to be much older, and they'll have a completely different lesson than what they had when they were little. And so every morning for the first week, we met with teachers and taught them one of the lessons. And taught them how to play games and not cheat at games. Try to give them some ideas. There's conflict with the kids, and when they get angry with each other, they just want to hit, and a fight breaks out. Well, we didn't see that. We heard about it, and so we tried to come up with some ideas so that wouldn't happen. They would have some other skills other than just start wailing on each other. I absolutely cannot see what that says. But we modeled lots of different strategies that they can use in the classroom. And sometimes we used books. Some of you might be familiar with the book Chrysanthemum. That was the basis for some of the lessons. And then games. And Allie and I went into classrooms and played some games. So bingo is one of the ones that, while I was there, I created bingo games for 10, 15 different topics. And we played bingo in the baby class. And we had a bingo card that had numbers 1 through 10, well, 1 through 9. 1 through 10, but they only had 9 boxes. And I got some macaroni from Jeremy's closet. So hopefully that's okay. And those were our markers. And the kids had no idea what they were doing. But boy, they loved it. They had so much fun. And so I'd pull a card, it'd have the number 7. I'd show them the number 7. Some of them could find the number 7 on their own. Some of them had their cards upside down. Some added different macaronis. Some may have eaten a few macaronis. And some kids put a macaroni on, and then when I called the next one, they moved it off. But Allie and I went around, the 2 teachers were there, they loved it, and show them what they did when they got a bingo. They go, bingo. They didn't know when they got a bingo, but we'd say, you have bingo, and they would. They go, bingo, and then everybody else in the classroom would go, bingo. And when I walked by them, they unzipped the side pocket of my pants, and they were hilarious. But they had so much fun. But we were so happy that these teachers invited us in to play the game with them, because we'd shown them the game at the teacher trainings in the morning, but it's a lot different to actually be into the situation. And I think that they're going to continue playing it. I went into a 2nd grade classroom and played a bingo game with sight words and pictures. And then we went into a 5th grade classroom and did multiplication. And in the 6th grade classroom was, next slide, multiplication in that classroom. It was great. And then also in the 5th grade classroom, I went in and did some science things. So I worked with different teachers, but this teacher really wanted to take me up on my offer to come in. So I drew a chalk heart on the ground and labeled the parts, and the kids could walk through the parts of the heart. They had just learned the heart. And then on the picture on the right, I have a t-shirt that almost is like a QR code, and you get an app on your phone, and you take the camera and point it at the t-shirt, and on the phone, you will see the digestive system, the respiratory system, and cardiovascular system. And they could touch the heart, and they could see what the blood looked like going through the heart. And so I left that there, and he has the app on his phone, and it was really cool. They've never seen anything like that. And I went through all their textbooks and took pictures and wrote down what they needed. I got lists from students or from the teachers on what they needed in the classroom. And then last week, I went through and packed 3 kits with all kinds of science equipment. And then I've got more to send. I have more to gather and more to send in the spring to help them out a little bit. Also, oops, go back. Oh, good. Also, no, I forgot what I was saying. That was so stressful. I don't know what I was going to say. I'm sending stuff. Oh, science club. So they have a science club, and so I gave him some experiments to do and left some stuff with him, and then I left some stuff with the 6th grade teachers. Their textbooks are not rigorous at all. They learn really the same thing over and over again. And so part of my goal, once I saw these textbooks, was to encourage the teachers to teach beyond the textbook. That even though they don't have chemistry, they can, while they're teaching the water cycle, they can talk about molecules and what's happening in energy going into the water and things like this. And that really was kind of a new idea. They hadn't thought that they could go beyond the text. And so it wasn't just methodology and types of lessons and how to engage students. It was a whole picture of all different kinds of things. They asked me for quite a few supplies, like they wanted pictures of animals in Africa, and they wanted pictures of animals in a desert, and they wanted information about magnetism or electric circuits. And so one day in the morning, we went to the library, and all the books that they needed were all in their library. It wasn't in their daily practices to think about where to go to research and find materials. And so if I needed something for a lesson, the first thing I would do is go online and I'd search it up and I'd find something from Teachers Pay Teachers. They don't have that, but they do have a lot of good science books in the library, and they were surprised. And then they asked if they could check them out. I said, yes, please use them. So I sent a microscope, I sent all different kinds of things. If you have stuff around home, I'll pack it up and send it in the spring. Okay?
Okay, so I recently graduated from Whitworth University with my degree in community health, and going to Zambia was part of my internship experience. From a community health standpoint, there were some things that stood out to me. Yep, so the first thing was the program development based on the needs of the community, which Jeremy and Bethany have done a really good job of. And it was really cool to see the different programs and how it helped the community in different ways. So some of these ways were our Days for Girls distribution, the special needs camp. There's also the school sends lunches to the mother shelter and things like that. So it was very cool to see that. Also teacher resources, providing them with what they need while we were there and giving them different trainings. Another aspect is community development, specifically in the school. You could see a lot of community development at a young age, so that kids had an opportunity to find different people, find different clubs, and things that they were passionate about, and things they could identify with. Some of these things were art club, which I attended. It was very fun. We made paper chains and paper snowflakes because it's their winter. And I also stopped by music club, watched the choir for a little bit. They have a lot of different clubs. They have a science club, they have a poetry club, and lots of different opportunities for the students to get involved. Another aspect was, oh, that's too far, that's okay, was the social emotional learning that we talked about with the character trainings. It's really important for students to learn things in school that don't necessarily apply to just the hard skills of math and reading and science, but also learning how to interact with each other and just be good little people. So that was very fun to see, and something that I've learned about in my classes, the importance of learning different skills that will help you just live a more fulfilling and rounded life with the people around you. Another thing that I got to do while I was there was get to know some of the teachers and teenagers in the area. So there are a group of 5 teachers that make dinner together every single night, and 2 times I was invited to join them for dinner, which was really fun. I got to learn more about their culture, more about their food, and just talk with them about the things that they like and want to do and play games. So we did that a couple times. I also stayed with Clara, one of the farm workers who Chandel mentioned earlier, and I went to her house for dinner a couple of times and spent the night with her once, and got to know people that way, which was really cool. Some of the people who hang out there taught me how to make enchima and taught me about some of their different foods. So it was fun to get that cultural aspect of the trip on a more personal level. I think some of the best pictures from the trip, I think, are of the kids just being kids because they're hilarious. So in the afternoons after school, a lot of the kids would stop by Jeremy and Bethany's house where we would stay during the day. And
They were termed Allie's fan club.
they were termed Harry's fan club, which I can explain in a moment. But they would stop by and we would do activities like jump roping and coloring and drawing. What else? Oh, we would play hand games. They would teach me some like different yard games, nail painting, lots of fun things like that, and they really enjoyed it. The reason that we called them Harry's Fan Club is because there was a day that Bethany came home from school and she says, "I have a letter for Harry." And I'm like, "Who's Harry?" And she says, "You're Harry," because they think your name is Harry. The way that they say Allie and Harry sounds very similar. And so I got a letter to Harry from a little girl that was very sweet. And then they were termed Harry's Fan Club. And we would know that they were at the house because they would come to the fence by Jeremy and Bethany's, and they would just stand there and yell, "Harry, Harry." And they'd wait for me to come out and play with them. So that was really fun, getting to know some of the kids and learning more about them. I think something that I realized was that anywhere that you go, no matter how different cultures are and how different people are, there are a lot of things that are really similar. And there are a lot of things about kids that are really similar, a lot of things about the adults and having dinner with them that are really similar, and it's really fun to make connections with those different people. Yep.
I'm Linda, and I'm going to share a little bit about our disability or our special needs camp that we had and some other things that we did while we were there. I was also involved with Days for Girls. I've been sewing kits or the liner pads for those for years and years and years, so it was really wonderful to be able to go and be a part of that. In fact, the first distribution, I started to cry because I thought, how many of these have I sewn? And I prayed for the girls that are going to get these, and I'm really here being able to be a part of this. So that was really amazing. By the disability camp, we had the first Saturday that we were there. Jeremy and Bethany shared that her favorite camp that they do all year is when they do the special needs camp a couple of times a year, because these kids and their caregivers, mostly moms and grandmas, but some other family members too, are not really supported in the community very well. There's not resources for them. They feel very isolated. Luckily, there's this wonderful group in Monza who's, like they were saying, about 30 kilometers away, where they have a support group. And there's some women in there that I'll talk about later that are part of that. But this group came, and there were about 100 people, probably about 40-ish people that are kids to young adults that have special needs. A lot of CP, but there's the autism spectrum kids and other things. There's a lot of hard things that happen prior and at birth and after birth in that community where they don't have resources and medical help. A lot of anoxia where kids, babies are not breathing for a period of time, and that never does anything good for the brain. So there's a number of kids with disabilities. So when they come, they do a lot of different things. We do a lot of fun things that day. In the morning, I don't know if you can read very well, but we had a morning time divided up into 3 groups where Chandel and I each taught a section, and then they went with Lorna to ride the donkeys or to go look at baby animals in the morning. So Chandel is a speech and language pathologist, and she spoke about communication, a lot of it about nonverbal communication, because a lot of these kids aren't really speaking much, maybe just a few words or a few grunts. And so just trying to teach them how to communicate with their child through visual, through pointing, through gestures or sign language, and realizing that that child is trying to communicate too. Ways to look at that. She also talked about nutrition. There's not a lot of food options there. It kind of goes through cycles. There's always in Shima, but different things are growing different times of the year. And so she talked about highly caloric foods that will help these kids. Some of them, a lot of them, can't feed themselves, so they're having to be fed, and what's going to give them the most nutrition, as well as some of them have swallow difficulties. And so talking about different foods that can be a thickener for them so they don't have choking, as well as positioning. I'm a retired physical therapist, so I talked about range of motion, stretching, positioning for kids. And throughout the day, Chandel and I were trying to touch base, especially with those caregivers of kiddos that had a lot of severe issues going on. So we had different times. That one top left picture is Chandel during our time in the afternoon, which had a lot of fun times. There was coloring, there were parachutes the parachute would go up and down. They're pushing kids underneath. Kids are running underneath the parachute. There's a slide. There's a zip line, and I'll talk about that later. So it was a lot of fun, but it gave us time to interact with these people too. And so I'm talking to a mom and trying to figure out the needs of that child. You can see that one little boy that Chandel's buying a wedge, and we got a couple of those wedges, and Chandel was putting out paper and paint, and these kiddos were reaching out and doing stuff, and their moms were shocked. And we were trying to show that, if you just sit that child up, they're going to fall over. They need to be supported, and the moms know that, or their grandmas know that. But when you do something like this, they're being supported on their trunk, and maybe they can use their arms, and they're starting to use their head and their neck, getting stronger. So I had some handouts of different positioning that they might want to try with their kids, and exercises that they could do for stretching and different things. So I was trying to do some one-on-one. Down below, there's just a group of kids. I think I'm in the back teaching, so they're not paying much attention to me, so that's okay. But it was just a really neat time for them to get together and support one another too. So this is some of the fun activities in the afternoon. The donkey ride was in the morning, but maybe you did the afternoon too, I don't know. But And the slide, it was this long, I have a video of me screaming down it, but and screaming too, but a long slide, and so some of the kids could do it by themselves. Some went with somebody helping them. Like I said, the parachute, which everybody loves parachutes, and I think they did balls on it, and I know Allie was helping with that. They also had a zip line that Jeremy, being the MacGyver he is, and Gordon and I think Emmanuel probably helped. They built a platform with sides on it and hooked it up to the zip line and had a rope on it so somebody could control how fast it went. But people could sit in it and hold these kiddos. If you look at Bethany, if you're Bethany's Facebook friend, look from when we were there a couple weeks ago. She has that most awesome post of her going down with this little boy in her arms that has CP, could never do this on his own, and he has the biggest grin on his face. It is just priceless. So that's why they do this. They reach out to these families and these kiddos that are isolated. I'm sure that at Jeremy and Bethany School, I'll talk later about some of the kids we saw that have special needs. But in a lot of these schools, it is not, it's not, what's the word I want? Anyhow, they are not welcomed there very well. It's going to be very challenging for any of them to go. There's not ramps, or if there's a ramp, it's not one that anybody could ever use in a wheelchair. So they love reaching out to this community and showing them how precious they are to themselves and to the Lord, and loving on them. So that's just the area that we met in to eat. It was a great time for fellowship, as well as, and they had this wonderful lunch, like it said, barbecue chicken and shima, and I think they're beans. So we fed everybody, and they loved that. But that was also where we met for coloring and doing Play-Doh, and people were very creative. These two people are wonderful. Judith is on the left, and she was one of the ones, I think Joyce was at the other gal too, in the blue. I wish I had a picture. Anyhow, there's a couple gals that are from the Monza area that have started this support group. I'm not sure how long it's been going, but they are in good communication with Jeremy and Bethany too. And Jeremy and Bethany have tried to help with the resources as they can. Wheelchairs for some of these kiddos. I don't think we had pictures of them, but there's a number of the kids that are in really, actually, I was surprised at how good of a wheelchair, like a child pediatric wheelchair, that have been donated. And I gave some recommendations of padding and things, but wheelchairs that are going to allow this child to be able to go out, their parents to be able to go out, because these parents came and they had their shitangi and their 12-year-old strapped on their back because maybe they don't have a wheelchair. Some of the kids do and some of them don't. We had a really sad story about Diana's, is that how you say her name? She has hydrocephalus like you've never seen, because she maybe had one shunt in her life and just this huge head and so heavy. And she had a wheelchair. Her mom, I don't think there's a dad in the picture. The mom's there taking care of her. And their apartment had a fire. And so the wheelchair was destroyed. And so I know Jeremy and Bethany are trying to work on, and I know some more got shipped, but trying to work in the community. So Judith has been wonderful. You can tell she's got crutches. She rode a donkey. I love her. She had crutches. She had leg braces. So she's been on her own journey in her life too. But she's so supportive, and it's wonderful for this group to have this. Sebastian, Shandal already talked about, and I want to talk about him too, because Sebastian, if anyone's ever gone to Zambia, that is one name you always hear from my kids, from my husband that have gone. And I was privileged to be able to meet him. He was my translator actually on the day for the camp. But he's interacting with people, and he just loves the community. He was there when we went to the mother shelter. And when we were going to leave, he just sat there when he's holding a baby that was like 2 days old. And so we just left, and he's loving on the baby, loving on the ladies, the women there. Just really a good example of how a man should be, a leader should be in that community. And like we said, he was a part of a lot of different things that we did where other men wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole. He was right there to help out and to make sure that things were going well. So we are so glad that we are able to be involved. I'm just going to look through this. And the support that you can give to Jeremy and Bethany and Choshen Farm, it is amazing all that they've done and where those resources go and how many people that they help in the name of the Lord. And then, I do have one more thing. I'll try to be quick. We did some kids at Fimpulu Christian, like I said, have CP or some other needs, and both Chandel and I did some assessment of these kiddos. Chandel probably did more kids than I did because there's some of the kids that have some intellectual disability, and so she did some assessment for vision, for hearing, for cognitive, and we were able to give some lesson plans or some plans to the teachers. She's talking with one of the teachers. It was great because they do co-teaching there. So one of the teachers was able to come and translate for the kids that we were assessing. So they knew what we were doing, why we were doing it, but also being shown some of the exercises or some of the ways that are going to help these kids. I was there with Ivy playing catch, and so I was trying to assess balance, coordination, their strength. I also did some fine motor things too, but the teachers there really care about those kids, and just giving them some ideas are going to be able to really incorporate that to be able to help these kids both physically and intellectually in those classrooms. So we are really thrilled to be able to go.
So we called this the Days for Girls Plus trip, because obviously it started out with Days for Girls, but lots of plus things happened in addition. And so I went, and I mean, although I've been part of the Days for Girls thing from the beginning, I really went in with my Choshen Farm treasure hat on, and so I did accounting there. So I'm glad somebody took this picture because this is where I felt like I spent most of my time. I'm sitting in the Colvin's office, and there's Jeremy on his computer, and I'm on mine, and that night we're trying to get some balances done. But really the purpose that I went in this capacity was, as a board, we've been talking about the future of the ministry, what it looks like as Jeremy and Bethany, what their plans are, their vision, and that kind of thing, and how can that be sustained into the future, whether or not there's American funding, that is something that we're really talking about a lot. And so I kind of went also in just trying to do some research, some initial research about what that looked like, and so trying to talk to people. And from the American side, I do the accounting for the farm, Jeremy sends me stuff, I'm entering stuff in QuickBooks. I keep the American set of books, but there's Zambian sets of books. The school is legally registered with the Zambian government, so they have their own set of books. The farm has a set of books, or the Choshen Farm Zambia is a registered organization. So I'm trying to understand how that fits into what I do. So are we doing things properly and that kind of thing? So that was one of, I really wanted to go and see that. So part of me sitting there in the office was just simply entering transactions for sales at the farm. So there was 20 transactions of selling pigs and eggs for one day in May. And sometimes it was 2 eggs for 10 cents or so, whatever it would be. And the realization of okay, maybe that person had enough money to buy 2 eggs that day, and that was it. So just the realizing the variation of what people are living with there. So I don't know, it was just that was helpful for me to see how much time it took to do those transactions, and really to want to go and see how much time or what is needed for Jeremy and Bethany to do the work that they feel called to, that those detailed transactions day in and day out might not be Jeremy's best use of his time anymore. And so who does that? How can that, what is needed there? So I'm just evaluating that. I haven't figured all that out. I don't have my answers yet, but just thinking about that. Just one other thing about that was that they have such a passion, they have such a vision for what the farm can become, and they are because they don't necessarily have a team, or I know what I was going to say was, Choshen Farm is just us. We have a huge donor base from different churches around the country, and lots of people that are behind us. But if giving goes down, there's 60 people that employees that work at the farm that they are so committed to that they don't want to see that fail. And so they will do whatever it takes to make sure the hardest things are done no matter what. And so it's, at times, it's like we know that that's a lot for them, and so we just want to come around them and support them. So I showed this picture. This is an iconic picture to me. This is in 2018, 15 years ago, Garland sent our first trip to Fimpulu, and this is kind of the church leaders meeting. It was like we sent out, like the times have changed because we wrote handwritten bush notes. Some of you remember us saying this at the time, to several church leaders to say, hey, would you join us for a meeting? How can Garland Church come around you as a village? And so these were the men that came, and we had a really great time. Two of these men have passed away, and three of them, Sebastian and Arthur is there in the middle in the black, and DJ on the end, are men that we saw again, that we are like still, every time we see them, they are encouraged by the fact that Garland has sent teams again and again and again, and how much that encourages the village, and how they've really tried to take what we've said, or just, I don't know, just the friendship has been really lasting. And so I feel like I did apologize to the team a few times. It's like I kept saying, I'm sorry, but this is another one of those things where this spot, this happened, or this used to be like this, and just like seeing that the changes over the years and what has come about because of Toshin Farm is, it's not us, but just really just this connection has been really a cool thing to watch over the years. So in saying that, so here's Sebastian, here's DJ, here's Arthur, and then Arthur's wife Hillary is there in the green skirt. These, I realized one of my realizations, I'm walking around, it's like, okay, these are my peers, so to speak. Hillary, we were walking back from church one day, and she said she's 50, and I'm a little more than that. But we were like, just the realization that these are the ones that I know for these last 15 years. This population, we're all aging. and it's like, even when we took this picture, I was like, let's take a picture of us. And she's like, well, let me put on my glasses. And it's like, okay, yeah, let me put mine on too. So it's like, okay, this has been, like you said, just the patriarchs of the community, and what has been the support all along for the ministry. But we got to meet the current Toshin Farm Zambia leaders. There's Bethany on the top. Molenga, he is the head teacher at the school. And then Sebastian, Emmanuel, who's like, he's really I forget what his title is, but he's gets everything you need, and he drives the vehicle. He's trusted to go get money for the ministry. I mean, he's on top of it, and at times has not wanted to be a leader, but I think this time it's like he's starting to see how things could be run, and he's learning a lot, and he just has vision. I think he's starting to see the vision, so that was really cool to watch that. So that's him on the Land Rover too, of just, we really think a lot of him. And then of course Jeremy, Clara is a former Peace Corps worker. She works on the farm. She's really it was really fun to be with her this time and get to know her more, and she's a great support to Jeremy and Bethany. Great, I mean, just really great to have another American there. That I think they have a lot of fellowship together. And then Gordon, he many times our water was not working, or we had hot water, toilet, I don't know, all kinds of issues, and he was the plumbing guy, and he could get it done, and he just, that was reliable most of the time, but he just, but really eager to be there. That was helpful. And then Sebastian, of course, he's been there, like we said, and then Rahab, she's the new farm manager. And I think Jeremy's finding that the women, like Rahab is doing an excellent job, and he's got other women farm workers that are detail-oriented, and they're really helping the farm out a lot. And so I think, and then, so you saw the teachers and the kids, it really hit me how this is the future. this generation, this next generation is the ones that have seen what's been happening, and they're carrying things into the future. And so that was really cool to see that. This is hearkening back to 2008 too, because Chandel showed you a picture of the bridge over the river. This is the first time we went, and they were teasing me about not wanting to like get in the car with Lorna to drive across the river, because it's like, I don't think I can do that. I still have scars, I think, from getting there the first night, driving in that Land Rover in the back, it was a cover, it was pouring down rain. We get to this bridge and the headlights went out. So Dave had to get out and shine his flashlight for Jeremy to drive across this bridge. So, and then you see up there, it looks pretty rugged and desolate. The farm, I wish I had a better picture of that could capture how much the farm has grown and just been refined. I mean, maybe that's, yeah, it's just really has changed so much, and so much has happened in 15 years. It's really, really cool. I also have to add that, technology that, I mentioned the bush notes. Jeremy used to, you'd have to climb on an anthill to get a phone reception, but now, and it was quiet. It was like this rural village, but I'm walking through the village and you hear music blaring from people's houses, or they have big screen TVs because they can charge on solar power, and you can WhatsApp them, and it's like that connection that many things that we rely on are very much a part of the village, and more people have the metal sheet roofs and we saw more cars and that kind of thing, that it's like it says to me that the village has more resources. That's part of like the being employed by the farm or other teachers or whatever it is, that is a changing thing in the village, that people's lives, their comfort and the quality of life has improved in the last 15 years. I always like to show new things that that are at the farm that we didn't see before. So the last time we were there was not this swimming pool, but I just learned from Bethany that there was a group of a church group in Monza that had a building project. They're in the process of building a building, and they sent out a bunch of their guys as a fundraiser to dig out the pool to build it. They dug it out, they painted it, and did all of that, and then Toshin paid them for their building project. So this was a thing, and what's interesting about this is like there's lots of people that come, the Jeremy and Bethany are always looking for ways to expand the capacity of the farm itself. So what does it take land-wise, crop-wise, resource-wise to help, into the future, this sustainability question, to be able to fund things. And so really this camp and conference center, the swimming pool, people come, they pay a day use fee. That's one way that there's a little bit of extra money there, but could the conference center grow into something more desirable? Like, could government conferences come and use that? And so what would that take to look like? And so I don't know, there's like some of those questions. That big building is a grain storage, and then the donkey, and so there's thoughts about, maybe they could have some zebra come and be part of, an attraction at the camp that would draw people too. And these donkeys were so cute. Maybe we joked about maybe we could paint stripes on them, and that could at least be an interim solution. But I think the thing is, like, there's the current operations that need funding, need recurring funding, donors that get it and are there to supply the needs of those basic needs. Then there might be, the next level might be something like a swimming pool, that it's like we could spend this thing or spend this much to like make something a little bit easier. So that's the next level. And then, in the future, maybe it's a capital project of some sort where it, the next step that would take things to the next level. They're talking about maybe a sports complex at the school. What could that be a thing that helps make the school something beyond, what this community has not seen but is doable, that just really becomes the best that it could be? There's like these different levels, and so in a sense, this picture reminds me of that of like what, as you hear them talk about the future and what the farm looks like, there's that's something that we're talking about. And then, so this is one of those things that has to happen. Like Tani talked about, next year in January, grade 7 starts, and a new classroom block needs to be built for the 7th graders, so the 8th graders would use it the next year. But the school has a PTG parent-teacher group that are really committed to helping. And so each grade, the parents are required to help make bricks for the next school. So that we went to this is the brick making operation. It's unbelievable. I think they're making 5,000 bricks and digging it out of that anthill, and which is on some, so it's like that's an ongoing thing. That has to happen. That's, to be funded by January. And then, like, into the future, then a couple of years ago, a piece of land was offered to the farm to buy, and with the idea that we decided that we should buy it because that pine trees, surprisingly, here's a picture that we found, like a stand of trees, where that's a common thing to buy them and to grow them, like a true tree growing operation, that over time, those could be harvested for income for the school. So it's like this is a 20-year project, really, to start planting as soon as possible, to be able to grow enough. It takes 20 years for them to grow, and then you harvest them bit by bit. But you have things like, well, the whole land has to be secured with a fence because that's a problem. That security is a problem, and then you have to have a security person, and so a place for them to live. And so it's just like those are some big challenges that are trying to figure out. But this was one of our last days. We took a tour of these lands and drove way out, hiked into the bush, saw where the land was. I don't have a good picture of what that looked like, but it's remote, and so it would take a little bit. So, but it's something that's really would be great to do soon. I think lastly, as we were talking, it reminded me that one question that we often get is, well, how did you share the gospel? And I think that it's like one of these, I'm reminded it again and again as we've gone on these trips, that we bring our own unique abilities and skills, and we go and we kind of provide a spectacle and an opportunity for the Colvins to have interactions with people that and a lot of times they know maybe more where the hearts of people are in the village and things like that, and can speak directly to spiritual things. It's not that we don't, we do when there's an occasion and stuff, but it strikes me that maybe it's not obvious that whether or not we did those things, but it's like there's just like showing love to the kids, or really valuing each of the children and just the community. And Arthur is the one that he says, again, every time I've seen him, he always talks about how good it is that we've come, that we've sent people that they know, that they know, the village knows that we care about them, and that's important. And I just lost my train of thought too. But anyway, I think you know what I'm trying to say. So we just really thank you for the opportunity to go. It's really, I think anybody that's ever gone feels like it's the blessing of really the privilege of your life to have gone and to experience being there. And so thank you very much. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if you want to go.
Add that they provide housing for the teachers also. So anybody who teaches for them has a place to live. And so they're making bricks to build another couple houses because they're going to need more teachers for 7th grade.
Also, just when Darcy says sports complex, don't think like the podium or the soccer center. This is like dirt and grass, and yeah, so. Well, so it gets convoluted because, so we're in Fimpulu province, we're in, Luapula province, in Fimpulu, we're in the village of center, but like Chabwe is literally 1.5 kilometers away. Maybe, yeah, 5,000. So, are you think
the farm, and then you walk a mile. A mile to their house, and then the church is another quarter of a mile, or the school is. You don't see houses everywhere. Between that whole stretch of walking, you see maybe 6 houses, but you see paths going through the grasses, and there's houses back there. And so it's really hard to gauge how big it is and how many structures there are because you can't see them. And that was very interesting. I'm going to Google map it again. Because you really can't see. There's a path going through, and there could be 5 houses on that path, or there could be 1. Yeah, and then there's the main highway tarmac. That has quite a few more houses on it, and in the health center, and you see signs where the chief lives, and then there's school signs and places to cut your hair, and places to sell your corn. So it is really hard to gauge how large the village is.
One thing that was definitely culture, you knew this, but it really hits you in the face as you're going on the tarmac, which is the main road, highway, whatever. People walking all the time because 90 whatever % of the people, that's how they get anywhere they go. So these villages are spread out, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to hop in my car and drive. No, they all walk to everywhere they go. A few people might have bikes. There were a few motorcycles, but in the village where we were, it's Jeremy and Bethany have cars, Clara had a car, and there was like one government person that had a car, and I think that was about it as far as, everybody just walks. And so, we're talking about going to these rural schools. Well, they have schools every couple kilometers because the kids have to walk back and forth. Now, they may walk a couple miles to get there, but it is mind-blowing. But like she said, when we had our tour of their property, and they were showing us the new things, and they're driving through, I'm like, I haven't seen this. Oh my gosh, and here's all these different huts and everything. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Were there any snakes or leopards or animals you had to watch out for?
Al, you should share about that.
We saw one snake while we were driving. Emmanuel was driving
Driving us to a school.
us to a school.
20, 30 minutes into the bush with nothing.
Yeah, so it was a pretty remote school, and we were driving, and I saw it. Nobody else did, so they just thought he was trying to swerve and hit the people on the side of the road. But there was a snake that we think was a black mamba, that was in the road that Emmanuel was swerving to try and hit and kill it. Everyone just thought he was trying to hit the people, and the people were terrified. But that's really the only thing that we saw. And when we were, spiders, yeah. They do have big spiders. They're wall spiders, yeah, and they can get to be pretty large. They just stay in their spot, and it's kind of funny because some of them will come out at night, and then they'll go away during the day, and then they'll come back to the same spot every single night. And you just give them a name, and they eat mosquitoes, and they're your friends. So you don't think about it too much.
And then there were the geckos.
Oh, and we saw some geckos. That's true. There aren't a lot of animals in the bush, well, there are chickens. There aren't any of the African animals that you hear about in the bush because they've all been poached, so they're all in the reserves.
So that takes you back to the zebra, as they say. That would be a big draw for the farm because these kids and even the adults have not seen any of the African animals. So they've only ever seen them if they've gone to a reserve, and the reserves are nowhere near where this village is. They've never seen these animals. So the teachers asked me for pictures of those animals, which it's really heartbreaking. But having a zebra at the farm would be really an amazing thing so that they could see that. No horses. They have 3 donkeys. At the farm? Yeah. They have cows, lots of pigs, chickens. Jeremy and Bethany's backyard is bunny haven. Yeah, hundreds of bunnies.
That's one of the things, they grow the bunnies because they can sell the meat at the tech shop, the shop where they have different things, and so yeah, that is, they can't keep the bunnies in stock fast enough. Oh, the goat problem. Yes, there are goats. There is the livestock reserve, or the village goats are penned at the farm, and at least with pigs, that is still an active thing where people can bring their goat that's tagged, and then they receive a share of the co-op, and then they, as the farm makes money, and it does, there's like a profit that gets split between all of the shareholders, and so that's has been a pretty successful program for the last several years, and so I think it started with goats, and so we saw goats running wild in one of the other villages, and it's like, oh wow, that wouldn't go over in Fimpulu anymore. And the villagers are very adamant that they don't want to see that be a problem because the goats eat their crops. If I didn't make that clear, so. No, that security has been, that is something that over the years we've had employees, Trojan Farm employees, that have been security guards. But in the last couple of years, we contract that out. There's a security company that has people on site all the time at checkpoints that you need to go through to get onto the farm. And really the advantage of that is usually the security people, or not usually, I shouldn't say it that way. It's like they may steal, but if it's your employee, that's a big human resource problem. But if it's somebody else, the contractor, then we can just call the company and say, this is a problem, and then they're replaced immediately. So there hasn't been as much in the way of security. I don't know if that's what you meant, or our own security. Yeah, there's guard at the school, there's 2 guards at the farm, and no, really safe everywhere we went. Of just, yeah, I don't know. It's just white people are a novelty for sure in the village, so there's a lot of curiosity, but really just, they're curious, and we enjoy being with them. So we never felt unsafe. Maybe when you go into, you're just aware when you go into Mansa and the market is, there's pickpocketers, so you're just trying to be more aware and stuff. So.
Is the government able to fund the programs at the school?
No, there's things that the government does in the village. There's the medical clinic that's there that's very much government funded and things like that. They won't give us, they wouldn't give us money, or necessarily, we wouldn't necessarily want their control, I think, but yet I think a cool thing was recently we got approved to do 7th grade testing at the school. So there's a series of things the guidelines that we need to follow for their support, but that support just makes it all the more desirable to send your kids there. It's like the government notices that the scores are so much better than the primary schools nearby. So it's becoming very, much more known, but no receiving funding from them. They're I think it's just under 400 students, but then they'll add another 30 for 7th graders in January, and then the next grade. And I think the plan is to go up to 9th grade, but it could go farther, but that's also in discussion. It's really an agricultural area, so a lot of people have their own personal crops. They grow, do a lot of farming, maize, so encouraging them to grow soybeans. Making charcoal is a thing. So there's different, there's a lot of farmers that grow vegetables, and so the school every day is for the feeding program. It's like there's all kinds of receipts for this many bushels of veg for lunch that day, and that kind of thing. So it's primarily farming.
What do they think of Americans?
I think we actually had a few people say, "Oh, I wish more Americans would come to visit. Like, thank you for visiting us," um, which was really interesting. Not something that I was really expecting, but they were very welcoming. They love having new people visit and getting to know new people. Um, so that's something I heard. I don't know.
I think they really, really appreciate that we've taken the time and traveled so far to come see them. And when they ask, how long did it take to get here or something, and we would tell them, they were very surprised and shocked. They were asking when we were coming back, and that would be dependent on when I can afford a first-class ticket. Um, but so it might be a few years. Darcy got video of Arthur and Sebastian talking about the impact and the changes. And if you get an opportunity to watch what they said, they are so appreciative that groups from this church have come every year or multiple times. It just shows the love and support that they're getting from other places, and really, really appreciative. There was never a time where I thought somebody didn't want us there.
The importance of that is the commitment level. Bethany and Jeremy have already shown the commitment level after being there 15 plus years, 17 plus years. And the community has opened up their arms to that help and to the gospel. And then when we partner with them and we keep showing up, again, that shows the care and the love and the commitment to open up sharing the gospel. So it not only supports Bethany and Jeremy because they cannot do this, alone. They need that help. But it also opens up the doors for the people to go, oh, these people really care for us. And why? And so that opens up that door real well.
It's Monza and it's all diesel.
Yeah, it's there. The Monza is a fairly decent size city, kind of. I mean, there's a grocery store that's pretty normal, and then gas stations. So it's a lot more and more of them are using debit cards or credit cards, and so it's like not just cash like it had been early on. So it's. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, 20 kilometers away in Monza. Well, I think unless anybody has anything else, I think we should wrap it up. And thank you so much for sending us. It's like the yeah, these. One last thing was of all the. I don't know. I was thinking. Never mind. It's not important. It's like let's just be done. It's not that big of a deal. We'll just end, and so thank you so much for sending us, and we really appreciate your support.